Hello everyone, welcome back to Atreyu Crochet. So in today's video I will be starting up my 2022 scarf series. If you guys were subscribed to my channel last year, you will know that I made several videos about how to crochet different scarf patterns in 1 or 2 hours, and that seems to be a very popular series. So I thought, well, it's officially autumn now, so why not do a 2022 line for fall, if you will. No, I'm not a fashion designer, but yeah, one can dream. Anyway, so yeah, today we're going to be using the Sprig Stitch, okay? It's a cute little stitch, but more important, it's very easy to do, which is clutch because you guys are beginners. And I know not all of you are beginners, but my channel is geared more towards beginners. That's why I teach so thoroughly, in a very detailed way, because I assume I'm talking to beginners. Okay, and so the good thing about the Sprig Stitch is that it's easy and it's easy to commit to memory, and it's always a good thing when you can go on autopilot while crocheting, which you will definitely be able to do with this pattern. So things you will need include a pair of scissors, as always, a darning, weaving, tapestry needle, as always, one skein or ball or cake of yarn. I'm using by Lion Brand Yarns Mandala, okay? And I don't use, usually I use medium 4 yarns, but I really like this colorway. But this happens to be a light 3 yarn, okay? For those of you who are wondering, can I use a different size yarn? Can I use a medium 4? Yes, you can use whatever you want, okay? This pattern doesn't really care about that. You'll just have to adjust your crochet hook size, and it will obviously affect, your dimensions. But I don't really give dimensions, I tell you what I'm going to use, and you can adjust that, okay? So dimensions, it doesn't really matter, and it's just a scarf. All right, and then this calls for a crochet hook size H, which is 5mm US. Of course, I like to go just a little bit larger. That's just my preference. So I'm going to be using an I, 5.5mm. Once again, that is US. All right, so let's get to it. All right, so we're going to start with a slip knot. Okay, so you just wrap that around your finger, twist, exchange, wrap that around like that. We're going to pull this one over that one and off the finger while lifting up on that one, like that. See, now pull up, insert our size I, 5.5mm US crochet hook. Yes, I repeat that a lot because even though I say it in my videos, people always say, what size hook did you use? And I'm like, did you watch the video? So, yeah, I'm just trying to avoid that question. What size hook is that? Okay, so the multiple for this scarf is a multiple of 4. Okay, so that means 4. Then the next multiple will be 4 times 2, which is 8. Okay. The next multiple would be 4 times 3, which is 12. So a multiple, 4 times 1, 4, 4 times 2, 8, 4 times 3, 12, and so on. And then plus 2, okay? And then plus 1 for the foundation chain. Now I know for you newer beginners, you beginner crocheters, that's probably confusing. You're like, what? What's the foundation chain? You don't need to worry about any of that. First of all, let's just take it one at a time. Okay, so a multiple of 4. Well, I want to have, a decently wide scarf, so I'm going to do 4 times 5, which is 20. So 20 is a multiple of 4. So I'm going to chain out 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Okay, so those are my 20 chains. Okay, and that's my multiple of 4. Okay, and then plus 2, so 1, 2, that takes me to 22 chains, and then plus 1 for the foundation chain. So plus 1. Okay. So this is how wide I'm starting it out with. Okay. If you wanted to make it less wide, let's say you wanted to do, of course, the multiple of 4, but a slightly narrower scarf, then you could do 4 times 4, which is 16, and then plus 2, and then plus 1. So 16 plus 3, right? And then you would have 19. Okay. If you want to make a little itty mini scarf, itty bitty mini scarf, then you could do multiple of 4. So 4 times 1, 4, plus 3, 7. Okay. So that's how you figure out the multiples. That's how you figure out how many to chain. You start with the multiple, whatever multiple of 4 you're going to use, and then you chain 3 more. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to work in the 4th chain from the hook. Here's the hook. Here's the 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 4th chain from the hook. We're going to put 2 single crochets in there. So when you make a single crochet, you just insert the crochet hook into the stitch so you don't yarn over before. Now we yarn over, pull through to the front, 2 loops, yarn over, go through 2. We're going to put a second single crochet into that same chain. Okay, go through 2. Now we are going to chain 2. So 1, 2, and then in the very next chain, which is right there, we're going to put 2 single crochets again. So yarn over, that's 1, and then back in there for a second single crochet, 2. Okay, so basically we went to the 4th chain from the hook. When the hook was there, we put 2 single crochets into that chain, then we chained 2, and then in the very next chain we put 2 single crochets. Alright, now here's the part of the pattern that you're going to be repeating. So we're going to skip 2 chains now. Okay, so, and if you're always wondering what's the next chain, just lift up on the current work. Okay, what you last crocheted, you can tell, okay, that's the chain right there that these stitches are in, so this must be the next chain right there. Okay, let me get my darning weaving tapestry needle. Let me get the other one because it's a different color. Okay, so this right here is where my last stitches are, so that right there is the next chain. Okay, so I'm going to skip 1, I'm going to skip 2, and then in this third one right there, that's where I'm going to go. Alright, so I'm going to put 2 single crochets in that third chain away. So 1, back in there for 2. Now I'm going to chain 2. 1, 2. And in the very next chain, which is right there, I'm going to put 2 single crochets again. And that might be familiar to you because you just did it. Okay, and then back in there for 2. Okay, alright, who knows what to do next? Do we need to chain? No, we need to skip 2 chains. So this is the next one, skip that one, and then there, that's where we're going to go. And then we're going to put 1 single crochet in that third chain away, and then another one. Okay, so whenever you make the first 2 single crochets, then you always chain 2 after. 1, 2, and then in the very next chain, that's where you put 2 more single crochets. Like that. Okay, so you might be noticing that you have the 2 single crochets, chain 2, and then 2 single crochets. 2 single crochets, chain 2, and then 2 single crochets. 2 single crochets, chain 2, and then 2 single crochets. After you complete that group of 2 single crochets, chain 2, and then 2 single crochets, that should tell you that you have to skip stitches. Okay, so you don't chain 2 at this point. You just completed one grouping, so you don't chain 2, but you do skip 2 chains at the bottom. So 1, 2, We're skipping those, and then this third one, now we started again. 2 single crochets, 1 back in there for 2. Now we chain 2, 1, 2, and then in the very next stitch, so we don't skip any, we put 2 more single crochets, 1, 2. Okay, so we just completed another one, which means that we don't chain 2 at this point. We have to skip chains. So skip 1, skip 2, and then the third one, that's where we're going to put our 2 single crochets. Now we're starting another group. Okay, chain 2. Remember, you always chain 2 after the first 2 single crochets. Okay, and then in the very next chain we put 2 single crochets like that. Okay, so this is what you're going to have, and then you're going to be left with 2 chains at the end. And so what you're going to do is you're going to skip 1 chain, and then in this final chain you're just going to put a single crochet. Like that. Okay, and this is what you have. Alright, so just to recap before we move on to the next row, I chained out 23, right? And then in the 4th chain from the hook, when the hook was like that, I put my 2 single crochets in that 4th chain from the hook. And then I chained 2. And then in the very next chain, I put 2 more single crochets. Okay? Then I skipped 2 chains. And then I started that pattern again. So I skipped 1, skipped 2, and then in that next chain, I put 2 single crochets. This is starting that pattern again. I chained 2, and then in the very next chain, I put 2 single crochets. Okay? And then I'm starting the pattern again, so I skipped 2 chains, and then the 3rd chain, I started again with 2 single crochets, chain 2, 2 single crochets. Notice once again that between the patterns I don't chain, okay? I only chain the 2 in, like, while I'm in the middle of the pattern. So 2 single crochet, chain 2, 2 single crochet. I don't chain, but I do skip 2 chains, okay? And then I start it again. 2 single crochet, chain 2, 2 single crochet. And then I start the pattern again. I don't chain in between them, but I do skip 2 chains, okay? And so on, okay? It's about to get so much easier. So if you found that confusing, which I hope you didn't, and if you were confused, hopefully my explanation helped. If not, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to explain it to you there. But yeah, it's very easy. But this next row, which is the row that you're going to repeat until you complete this scarf, is so easy, okay? Alright, so starting row 2, let me get myself together. So now we chain 3. This is how you're going to begin every row from here on out. Chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Turn your work like that. Okay, so we're looking at the back. And basically at this point we're just looking for the chain 2 spaces. What are chain 2 spaces? Well, it's the space that's created by having chain 2. Okay, so here's the chain 2 space, here's a chain 2 space, here's a chain 2 space, here's a chain 2 space, and here's a chain 2 space. Okay, if we go back to round 1 and we turn this around, remember we did the 2 single crochets and then we chained 2, and then we did 2 more single crochets. That chain 2 in the middle, that created what we call the chain 2 space. Okay, so from here on out you're going to be looking for those chain 2 spaces, because when you find the chain 2 space, then we're going to put that pattern in the middle of it. So you chain 3, it's going to kind of lay over like that to get to this chain 2 space there. Okay, we insert our crochet hook and we're starting the pattern. So we're going to make 2 single crochets in there. So yarn over, pull through to the front like that. Yarn over, go through 2. Back in there for the 2nd single crochet. Okay, and now we're going to chain 2, creating another chain 2 space for the next time. Okay, and now we go back in there in that same chain 2 space and put 2 more single crochets like that. Okay, and we just created another chain 2 space. Now we don't chain. Remember, we only chain 2 when we're in the midst of the pattern, in the midst of making the pattern. Alright, but we do look for the next chain 2 space, which is there. Remember, it's always the peaks there. Okay, so here's the next chain 2 space. Doesn't matter, this stuff in between doesn't matter. Just find the peak, which is there, insert your crochet hook, and start the pattern. Single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there, single crochet, okay? Find the next chain 2 space. It's there. So I'm looking for the peak. Ah, it's there. Okay. Start the pattern again. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, always chain 2 after that second single crochet, and then back in there for the 3rd single crochet, and then the 4th single crochet. Done with that pattern. Okay. Find the next chain 2 space. Well, how do I find it? Look for the peak. Oh, there's the peak right there. Okay, single crochet, chain 2 after the first 2, 1, 2, and then 2 more back in that same chain 2 space. 1, 2. Okay, and then now what do we do? Look for the next chain 2 space. How do I find the chain 2 space? It's always the peak. Ah, right there. And notice I don't chain, right? The chaining only happens while I'm in the midst of the pattern. Right now I'm just beginning the pattern with the 2 single crochets, so I don't chain. 1, 2, because now I'm in the midst of the pattern and I've crocheted those first 2 single crochets. Now I chain 1, 2, and back in there for 2 more single crochets. 1 and 2. Okay, and now you might be wondering, okay, now what? Well, on the end, you're always going to find that turning chain. Just get yourself in that corner somewhere, and we'll make a single crochet, like that. Okay, and this is what you have. Isn't that so beautiful? All right, so let me do one more row on camera just to show you how easy it is. I'm just going to repeat what I just did. Okay, so I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Remember, that's the way that you begin every row. You chain 3, okay? Turn your work. And now just look for the chain 2 spaces. How do you know where to find the chain 2 spaces? Well, you have to find the peaks. So if we look here, that's a peak. That's a peak, that's a peak, that's a peak, that's a peak, that's a peak. If we go in there, that's the chain 2 space. That's the chain 2 space. That's a chain 2 space, that's a chain 2 space, and that's a chain 2 space. And then when we get here, we're going to put that single crochet in this turning chain. Here, there's that chain 3. You can put it in the top chain, but I like to put it in that second chain there. So there's the 1, 2, 3. I like to put it in the second chain because it kind of gives it a more square edge. Okay? So yeah, let's work this round right quick, or this row. All right. So, find the peak, the chain 2 space, put 2 single crochets in there, 1, 2, then chain 2, 1, 2, and then back in there for 2 more single crochets, 1, 2. I'm going to stop saying chain 2 space. Find the next peak. That's even easier. 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 2 single crochets, 1, 2 for that 3rd and 4th single crochet. Find the next peak, it's there. 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there, 1, 2. Okay, find the next peak, it's there. 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 2 single crochets, 1, 2. Find the next peak, it's there. 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 2 more single crochets, 1 and 2. We're out of peaks, but we have this turning chain. Okay, and as I said before, I like to work in the second chain up. Alright, and just put a single crochet in there. So basically the only stitch that we're really going into is that chain, that turning chain on the end. Pretty much everywhere else we're just going in the gap, the space, the peak. Okay, that chain 2 space. Okay, and so yeah, this is the pattern, you guys. Isn't that easy? So you just keep doing that. You'll chain 3 and then start looking for the peaks and putting that pattern of 2 single crochets, 2 chains, and then 2 more single crochets in each of those peaks. And you just keep doing it for as long as you want your scarf. So I'm going to work on this for a little while, and then I'll come back on once I get to another color. Okay? I will see you there. Alright, you guys, so this is what the Sprig Stitch is looking like so far. I've made quite a bit of progress, as you've seen. As you see, I've gone through different colors. Alright, so as promised, I'm going to go through maybe 1 or 2 more rows just in a lighter color. Okay? And as I said, you're just repeating that 1 row. So I just finished this one. I want to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. By the way, in this chain 3, that second stitch, that's where I'm putting my single crochet. That's where I'm going in to put my single crochet at the end of every row. That second chain up of that chain 3, you'll see. Okay? Alright, so now I turn my work, and first thing I do is I look for the peaks. Here's the peak right there. So I just go in that chain 2 space, aka the peak, put 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and now I chain 2, 1 and 2, and then still working in the peak, I put 2 more single crochets, 1, 2. I've completed that peak. Now I look for the next peak. It's there. 2 single crochets, 1, 2. Notice I didn't chain in between, but now that I'm in the peak, I chain 2, 1, 2, because I'm creating the next peak, and then still in there I put 2 more single crochets, still working in there. Okay, look for the next peak. It's there. 2 single crochets, 1, 2, and now I chain 2, 1, 2, and then still working in there, I put 2 more single crochets, 1, 2. Here's the next peak. Go in there, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet and another second crochet or 2 single crochet. Alright, next peak is here, so I go in there, 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. And remember, I was just talking about working into the second chain up. That's this one right here. So that's where I go in to put my single crochet at the end of every row. Do one more. Chain 3, 1, 2. That's the chain that you put the single crochet in, by the way. And 3. Turn my work. Find the peak. It's there. 2 single crochets. 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 and 2. Okay, find the next peak. It's there. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Find the next peak. Right there. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Okay, find the next peak. It's there. Make sure you're not going into any stitches. Make sure you're going into the hole. Okay, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Find the next peak, it's there. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Alright, and then second chain up, 1, 2, and that's where I put my single crochet. Alright, you guys, I'll do one more. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Turn your work. Peak, there. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Find the next peak. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Find the next peak. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. Find the next peak. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. And find our last peak, which is there. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, back in there for 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. And now we find the 1, 2, the second chain up, and we put our single crochet in there. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and this is what you have. So you guys got it now. Okay, so just continue working on your scarf until you get it to your desired length. And yeah, I will meet you once that happens for me, and we will finish the scarf off. Very easy stitch, right? And it's really beautiful. And look at these colors. They're so autumn, right? I love it. Alright, see you in a bit. Alright, you guys, as you can see, I'm at the end. I just put my single crochet in the second chain up. So now I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to grab my scissors and cut my yarn. And then I'm going to fasten off. Okay? I have this much of my cake or ball, whatever you want to call it, left. So I'll probably make a hat or tam to match the scarf at some point. Okay? This scarf, because I already know people are going to ask, is 5 inches wide and it is 88 inches long. Okay, so this is a really long scarf. I think 88 inches is probably something like, what, 224 centimeters? Something like that. Okay, just to give you guys an idea of the width and length. Okay, alright, so now I'm going to use my darning, weaving, tapestry needle that I said you needed at the beginning of this video just to weave in this tail. Okay, so just go through some nearby stitches in one direction, like that. Okay, and then just pull. Alright, and then take a slightly different path to go back. So I'll go start there, and then yeah, just go through, taking it through a slightly different path like that. Okay, and then I kind of like pull it back out so it's not contorted, and then I grab my scissors, and I'm sure not to cut my work, but I cut the yarn down like that. Okay, and now you don't know where where that tail is hidden in there. And I'm going to do the same thing with my initial tail, the tail that was made when I made my slip knot at the very beginning. Just go through some stitches, one direction, and then take a slightly different path in the opposite direction, and that just secures the yarn to the work. You don't have to worry about it unraveling. Okay. Okay. And then I'll cut this down now. Look how it's obvious where the tail is, right? Where it's coming out. But when I cut it, and then do that. You don't know where it was, right? I love that little magic trick. All right, you guys, so this is my autumn scarf. I actually really love this. I love the colors. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful, isn't it? It's so autumn. It's so fall-ish. So, yeah, learn this stitch. It's very easy, as you've seen. I've gone over several example rows. And don't forget, you can always slow it down on YouTube, if I'm moving too fast. Usually, I like to go through the stitch and the pattern very slowly in the beginning, and then as you get it, kind of speed up the process as I continue to crochet that same pattern throughout the video. Okay. Yes, you can use yarn of a different size. That will necessitate you changing your crochet hook size. And yes, you can use the same stitch to make a blanket or something else, right? Just be sure to use the multiple. If you're going to make a blanket, for example, be sure to use the multiple suggestion at the beginning of the video, okay? All right, guys, that is going to be it for this video, but I will see you in the next one. In the meantime, happy crocheting.